Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS Shout Out Show. Hope that you're having a fabulous Wednesday. And if you're not having a fabulous Wednesday, guess what? You're halfway through the week. Quit your crying. All right. Um, as you can see, we are opening the show in a bit of a memorandum. I normally don't do this. I kind of speak, but I kind of speak generally and do my homework, sort of like some tidbits. But this one touched me personally. We lost a giant, brothers and sisters. We lost Sister Nikki Giovanni, and it was very recent this week. So let me explain the power of loss, if you will. And what I mean is intellectual loss is one thing, but it's also the fact that we have these intellectual giants who have carried us. First, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and when we lose people like Nikki Giovanni, it reminds us of how small we are in the world. It reminds us that literally we can be grown 50, 60 years old, but when we look at the people who have contributed intellect, passion, and her overriding understanding of Black joy is something that when they do leave it's like a child. You feel like a child left in a mall. And even if someone gave you a lot of money to shop at the mall, you wouldn't shop at the mall. You'd be looking for that specific store, the Nikki Giovanni store. Her poems, you need to do your homework. I'm going to emphasize that you need to do your homework. Read her poems. She spoke in a very, very flat dialect that reflected that she was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, that she was raised in parts of Wyoming, that she went to Fisk University, but she went to Columbia. And she runs the gambit of just, I want to say, intellectual parallel that we normally don't see. That she's with Baldwin, that she's with Muhammad Ali, that these giants refer to her as a giant. And when I talk about Nikki Giovanni, I'm talking about someone who is a bellwether for people like Bell Hicks, a bellwether for so many other female artists. I mean, not even, let me say that. Female authors, but also female artists and male artists. What we're looking at, brothers and sisters, we won't see this anymore. Our communities, Black, white, Latino, and everything in between, will not produce this type of talent and spirit ever. I mean, if it happens in my lifetime, I'm a happy guy, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Her ability to speak to a problem as a solution, to speak to a weakness as a pathway to greatness. I mean, you're not seeing that. And in the world today, it really even hurts more because we have a situation scenario that leads to our topic today, which is, are we settling? You know, I have a mantra that I do with people. It said, don't be afraid to be great. Someone very important to me said, why are we saying that? The mantra should be, don't be afraid to be greater. And it reminded me of, the W.D. Muhammad community when Imam Worthy Muhammad reframed Allahu Akbar from Allah is great to Allah is greater. That's the type, if you will, the social impact of a Nikki Giovanni. She wasn't all in your politics. She wasn't all in your bedroom. She wasn't all in your marriage, But when she was in this esprit de corps that we just don't see, that you can be, if I can speak frankly, you could be cantankerous and fun. You could be naughty, but well-meaning. You could be all of these things and still be happy. I looked at her life. And then there's a great documentary out. She made a documentary, completed a documentary before she passed away. You have to watch it. I mean, it would be difficult for me to kind of tell you everything that's about it, but I'm saying you really literally have to watch it because just a historical imperative about so many things that are important and how we build ourselves and how we look. And this is someone who actually has, I want to say, years and years and years of work. You know, she said in one of her interviews, she said, you know, she realized that she wasn't a lot of things when she was young. She realized that she wasn't pretty. She realized that she wasn't athletic. She realized what she was good at. What she was good at was the ability to watch, the ability and the skill and the discipline to watch and effectively report on things that she had saw. You know, yes, she was an activist. Yes, she challenged a lot of institutions. Yes, she challenged all kind of boundaries on race, sexuality, all of these things. But uniquely, across the board, she was still Nikki Giovanni. So for this part of the show, I want to dedicate this to not someone I respect. Of course, I respect, but she was a hero. And I would encourage everybody to always look up your heroes and let's do that. Yes, the name of the documentary, thank you, Satana. Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni project it's a masterful rendition. And even, you know, and let me be clear. I knew that she was sick because they said it in the documentary that she was suffering from cancer. But even then, you still feel like they're your heroes. You know, they're your heroes in a way that we never see our parents really get old. We know they're getting older, but we don't really see them get old. You know, sometimes they hurry up, mom, hurry up, dad. You don't realize that, you know, mom and dad are 20, 25, 30 years older than you, you know, and that's the thing about genius. You know, the beauty of motherhood, the beauty of a fatherhood, the beauty of a family unit that understands expectations are always going to be high, but those expectations are fueled by this baseline of just a unique type of love. So, thank you, Nikki Giovanni. Thank you for everything that you wrote. Thank you for everything that you said. Thank you for the blessing of giving us this documentary before you left. And just a plain speak, if you will. You know, she spoke a very flat language. You know, a lot of people trying to get very, very artistic with their language. She spoke a very flat language that resonated with me my entire life. Nikki Giovanni is someone I've had with me my entire life, almost like a family member. So shout out, praise be to you. Pray for us on the other side. We thank you. We love you. Peace and blessings. Rest in power. My sister, my big sister, Nikki Giovanni. Let's go ahead and start the show. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for coming back. We're going to get right into it. Let's get into let's get our comment sections. Let's get our shout out show family. First of all, how you doing, Sister Rhea? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to you. Hope you're feeling well. Young lady, mom and auntie asked about you. I hope that you're on the road to recovery, if you will. Let us know how you're doing. All right. Don't be a stranger. All right. My main man, Altar Rashid, and wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh. Dear brother, we call him Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, one of our day ones here on the Shout Out Show, reporting all the way from Toronto, Ontario. We call him the Canadian envoy to our show. He used to be an ambassador. We promoted him to an envoy. Thank you so much for tuning in, brother. My big brother, Bilal Salahuddin, wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi. I'm sorry. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And of course, shout out to your lovely queen, Sister Sonia Dalton Salahuddin. We appreciate you. She says she's there. And my little brother, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, all the way from Milwaukee. Big JT, well, I call him JT, little brother. Always doing big things. How you doing, beloved? Hope you're doing well, man. Thank you so much for tuning in the show. And of course, we got to give a shout out. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to our exalted executive producer, sister Satana Whitfield. So gracious for so many years. You guys don't know, hard worker. You see loyalty. That's Sister Satana, and of course, my big brother that picked me up from the airport. What's going on, Rick? Bitcoin Rick, my beloved brother Rick Sclafford. What's going on, Malak? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, man. Thank you for picking me up. It was pouring down rain. Big brother, we got a hustle. It's been going on for a year, man. He picks me up. We know exactly where we're going to get picked up right there at the parking. We never pay for parking. That's how good it is. We got a hustle going on. Good to see you, big brother. And I'm trying to get out on pickleball court. We're gonna see. So our topic today is: are we in an era of settling for less? Ironic. I just talked about Sister Nikki Giovanni, who never settled for less. But are we in an era of settling for less? And some of the things that came out of the election are some of the things that have been dogging us for probably the last 15 years. It is the compromise of expectation. The idea of having high expectation has somehow taken a hit. One of the hits high expectations taken is that people are not as creative as they used to be. People are not as disciplined as they used to be. People don't work as hard as they used to for their craft. The idea of meritocracy used to be coupled with, are you creative? Do you take initiative? These things are not happening as much. And this is the era of gimme, gimme. This is the era of you owe me, or this is better yet, this is the era of I deserve it. Now, the notion of I deserve it has nothing to do, it's not tethered to the idea of what did you do to earn it. So the idea of earning has gone out of the window. And what you find is relationships. As you know, my good brother, may Allah be pleased with the rich brother Reginald Kitchen used to say back in the day, there's two types of relationships. There's adhesive and cohesive. Adhesive and cohesive. Cohesive people, relationships stick with you. Adhesives stick to you. We are in a downward spiral in some regards of adhesive relationships. If you looked at the election, you saw a phenomenon of people who, at one point, totally disparaged Donald Trump, didn't want anything to do with him, talked bad about him, called him crazy. But then on the other side of the election, you find them trying to be in his cabinet, trying to be in his administration. This could be said for a lot of things, and this is something I'm not going to throw off on Trump. I'm not going to throw off on Trump, because I'm going to give credit to Trump where I can. It's not a lot. But we knew who he was, and he made it clear and went out of his way to let us know this is who he was, and he was going to go even further, let us know this is the way it's going to be. This was the norm. The orbits changed around him. Now, when I say the orbits changed around him, people accepted, and this is something I want to be very, very careful in wording. People accepted two things: bad alternatives and no alternatives. Bad alternatives and no alternatives. When we talk about a bad alternative and a no alternative, this is the wellspring. This is the ultimate blue ocean, that you come up with something that out of all this despair, out of all this darkness, you find a little bit of light that you can rub and make it a big piece of light. We don't have that anymore. The artistic community is dying. You hear what I'm saying? The artistic community is dying. And the reason why it's dying is because it's gotten to a space where it's settled for less. Like, I may rail on rap music from time to time, but I feel like I have a right to, because I grew up in a wellspring that the rap music evolved, that it went from the party record to the hip hop records to the group from the group to the sing. I've seen the genre of hip hop. Look, hip hop turned 50 years old this year. My point was I experienced and I enjoyed evolution. When we talk about selling for less, we're talking about people who don't evolve. We're talking about people who connect themselves to ideas that don't evolve. And it's become problematic now, and it will become even more problematic because it's more accepted. The thing that needs to be said about settling for less is not the settling for less, it's that you accept less. Is that you accept a certain type of mediocrity. Is that you accept that this is what and it's an antithesis to how we grew up, particularly the African American community, particularly the Muslim community, particularly the Latino community, whereby you grew up and went through a process that everybody was trying to get you to accept less. The greatness is that we look at less, and that is the blessing because we look at less and we say we can definitely do better. If I can't do it with you, I will do it without you. And now we're top heavy. One of the worst things about white supremacy, and a lot of white people don't talk about it. One of the things about white supremacy is that you have to take a stance and a position that you are going to accept less for you. That way, that's the mandate for everybody else. It's a language. It's a loser language that says, yes, this is where it is. It's devoid of any facts. It's devoid of any input. It is a declaration that this is where the bottom line is, and everybody has to make sure you either serve that bottom line or you're under the bottom line. The thing about racism is not just racism, it is the fact that it employs certain aspects of longevity of poor ideas. When I was on tour in South Africa, and this is a very valid point, when I was on tour in South Africa some years ago, we had a driver. The driver would take me wherever I wanted to go. I wanted to explore the city. He'd be like, no, don't go there because it was dangerous or whatever. I'm like, hey, man, it's just black people to me. And he was a good guy. He drove me everywhere I needed. I could pick him up. He picked me up and, I could call him. He picked me up in like, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. He was there. He was sharp. And on the way to the airport, I broached this idea because his service was so good. He took pride in what he was doing. I asked him, I said, how long have you had this company, this driving company? And he looked at me like Chris Tucker on Friday on the porch. He said, I don't understand. I said, how long have you had this business? He looked at me in a straight face. He says, this isn't my business. And I was like, huh? He goes, this isn't my business. And I said, well, and I was like, well, it's not your business. I was like, you need to start your business. Again, the Chris Tucker look. What I didn't know was the damage of apartheid. You see, the one thing about apartheid is not just the removal of black leadership, the minority rule, white minority rule in South Africa over over a dominant black population. It wasn't that. He explained to me something, and it still hurts my heart today. He explained to me that in South Africa, the cruelest part about apartheid was the education. And the education taught generations of Africans, black South Africans, to settle for less. So the job was not that you become a thinker and an entrepreneur, because you have very few South African entrepreneurs. In fact, they bring other Africans in to be entrepreneurs over black South Africans. That's deep. Here's the thing he said. He said in the education preach, he said, we're still suffering it. Apartheid gave you a certain lens for education. And so generations upon generations of black South African men and women were taught not to be bosses. They were taught to be good employees. So the DNA was always there for them to settle for less. It's diabolical. because you learn these things thinking that you're getting a quality education. You're being indoctrinated into a system that's, for lack of a better word, going to keep you a slave just without the chains. And when we look around in the United States, this thing where we're being lulled to sleep, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And many of us lament the inactivity of these masjids and these churches. We lament because we understand that Friday Juma, or that time at the temple, or Sunday at church, is perfunctory for not doing anything. We might have some food drives and things like that, but we're not changing the social, cultural, even the religious temperature around the things that are most important to us. How we build society, how we build an environment, how we build this meaningful intellectual ecosystem. That's the thing that drives us. Thus, I led off the top of the show talking about a Nikki Giovanni who's no longer there, who's advocated for this thing her entire life. And we look around, and guess what we are? We're that child I talk about at the mall. We got money, but there ain't no stores to go to. We have interest, but all the stores look the same. They give me the same product. Just like in South Africa, they gave them the same educational product. Here in the United States, we hire people for jobs that are totally against the job. We have a woman who's hired as going to be the lead person for civil rights. She don't want civil rights. She's conservative. She don't want civil rights. Education, even when Trump was the last Trump administration, Mr. Voss, she never taught. She never brought cookies to a PTA meeting. Somehow she got the job and started destroying education. So hear my heart. The worry that I have now moving forward is less and less about Trump. It's less and less about Trump. And I figured it out while I was running yesterday. The worry now is that people have begun to acclimate to the concept of less. Do less. Say less. Empower less. Right? Say less, empower less. And now the power of the verb is not the power. The verb doesn't have power anymore. We are adjectives. We're adjectives, right? We're pretty. We're listless. We're fearful. But we don't have character. We don't have power. We don't have discipline. We don't have courage. And those things begin to move out of the way, and it leaves us where we are now. We have a gutless, spineless Supreme Court that will roll over and play dead, or roll over and stand on his hind legs for this administration. The DOJ has been, of course, reconstituted, and now it's going to be allowed to do whatever it wants to. We watched people commit crimes, and they will most likely they'll get pardoned, or they figure out a way to cheat, and that doesn't happen, brothers and sisters. If you don't, it doesn't happen if you are not settling for less. That the bar is high. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a convert Muslim. I asked him about Islam. He's been a Muslim maybe about 3 years, and he said, one of the things that really dismay him is that there's this bar that's really high here, in Quran and prophetic tradition, but the bar is really low in terms of execution. How we inject ourselves in society, how we build success for not only ourselves but our children and our communities overall. And I don't want to go like too far overboard, but you feel what I'm saying. Let me give some shout outs to everybody. Instagram land. We got Latifa Sanj, we got Tariq Mustang. Who else we got? DMV Enterprises. All right, DMV. Talk to yourself, buddy. Nobody's here. Okay, thank you. Yazine. Let's see here. We got somebody joined. Lillian joined. Medina Institute joined. Cool. So I also want to throw this out. If you are on Facebook and you somehow get our show on Facebook, there's been a lot of problems with Facebook as of late. I don't know what's going on. I know we're not really on Twitter, Twitter X, formerly Twitter, whatever they're calling it now. And I probably will get out Twitter. I just don't trust it. And that's just me talking. That's just me talking. But I will encourage this, particularly on this platform, that you guys hold me to a standard. Please, if you have questions, if you have comments, concerns, this platform is a very open platform. Even though I do most of the talking, it's a very open platform. And you can get in the comment section and say what you want to say. You can express yourself. The fun part about the Shout Out Show for me is that I'm not always right. Sometimes I'm searching. Sometimes I look to be wrong because I need to learn and learn stuff, if you will. I don't want to be 100% correct. I don't. There has to be some learning in there and input from other people, to understand, the viability of things that I'm saying, also the viability of things that I'm not saying. So that's something I want to throw out. All right, let's get to the wrap. It's only two things I really want to say. And I'm going to put them on Nikki Giovanni. Nikki Giovanni has inspired legions of people. Legions of people. But even in her documentary, she was dismayed by the human condition. Dismayed by the human condition because the human condition was in a rough space, but the human condition had began to accept just being in a rough space. That the voices that speak out are so few and far between that they look like crazy mad people. That we're not able to couch meaningful conversations between us. It's always the whisper, or in this case, the text or the WhatsApp, because conversations have become more and more secretive. We don't talk about the good things in a very open space. And we don't talk about the bad things in a very open space. What we look for is these small modules of safe space that allow us to say something, but not do anything about it. Number two, this is a lesson I learned. When you wake up in the morning, if you can, aspire to be present in your own shortcomings. Aspire to be present in your own shortcomings. I'm not saying you did anything bad. I'm not saying you did anything good. But understand in your shortcomings that there's a pathway to self-realization. So I owe that to Miss Nikki Giovanni. I learned that when I was in my 30s, and I really, really appreciate it. Got a shout out, Brother Eric Walikama.
Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
All right. Guess we got Ghost in the... What's up, Brother Eric? Well, I my salon up for 2 but count beloved. I don't know where that came from because I didn't press anything. I don't know. That's probably good signal. Listen, that's our show for today. Shout out, rest in power, Sister Nikki Giovanni. Hey, people, stop settling for less. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next week.